Welcome to Live Into Your Best Life, a show where people learn how to go from where they are to where they'd like to be in any area of life. If you're looking for a new job, wanting to improve your relationships, or even reclaim your health, Paulie Skaja will share with you a simple formula that can take you on a journey to begin to live into your best life in all areas of life. Now sit back and begin your journey.
Hi there, I'm Paulie Skaja. Welcome to Live Into Your Best Life. Today I'm here with Chris Christensen. And Chris is someone I've known for over a decade. In fact, we've been married for over a decade. So we've had some fun together, some fun adventures. We actually met networking. And so when I wrote the book, Next Stop Your Dream Job, last year, Chris was one of my guest writers, and he introduced the topic of networking because he is actually one of the best connectors I know. He likes to meet people, introduce people to other people, and really help to bring things to life for the folks around him. He is always wanting to give to others and help others succeed. And it's been really fun, actually, over the last few years now, where watching Chris get really clear on what he wants to do with his life. And so we're going to talk a little about his journey, but it's been fascinating to be on this journey with someone who's literally living into his best life. And we might reveal a few struggles and all that he's learned. He's just going with it. And Chris, now you are the director of sales for an assisted living company in Minnesota.
Yes.
And I have never seen you happier. It's been really fun to watch.
Yeah. My go-to joke right now is that it only took me 55 years to figure out that this job existed. And now that I have it, it really feels like home. It feels like my calling.
Nice.
So I feel very, for lack of a lesser trite term, I feel very blessed to be where I'm at.
Yeah. Awesome. And it shows how you're living life on a daily basis as well. So that's been really fun.
Thank you.
So let's go back just a couple of moments to where I mentioned you introduced networking as a concept in the book that I wrote last year.
Mm-hmm.
What makes networking important?
I guess for me, at a fundamental level, I want to know who people are. I want to know what makes them not only tick, but also what excites them. And also for me, I want to know how I can assist them, help them. So for me, that was I don't know how or why, but it was a fundamental type of behavior that I had. I know that my mother was very gregarious, as am I. I enjoy listening to people's stories. I was raised by my grandparents, so they always had fabulous stories to share with me, especially my grandfather, my grandmother as well, from hunting and fishing back when there were flocks of pheasants, when that's not something that exists anymore. See, my grandmother that either had selective memory or created her own as far as our family heritage. I for the longest time, I believed I was part Cherokee Indian, but maybe not. But that's okay because I loved her all the same. And she had an amazing story to tell. For me, networking was taking those stories and made me really receptive to receiving others' stories so that I could take that information and in turn find a way to be very receptive of their story, so to be empathetic, sympathetic, but also at the same time figuring out a way to assist them in what they're looking for.
Nice. So then how did networking help you open the door to the variety of jobs that you've held?
I wouldn't have what you'd call exactly a traditional career path. So I actually started my first 10 years out of college working in construction. I chased the money. I went after the perceived high value, high hourly wage. And I made decent money. I made good money. A lot. It afforded me to purchase my first home, to invest, all the things. But at the end of the day, that doesn't really have any longevity. Unless you're like Superman or inject yourself with things that maybe aren't necessarily good for you in the long term, but like steroids, whatever. But basically, I knew that at a certain point, I wasn't going to be able to continue on that path of using my body to make money. So at the age of 30, I made a distinct decision to use my mind to follow a path where I was going to either educate or sell or both that would allow me to have the longevity of my career to create something more than just, hey, making a few bucks and putting a couple things together.
And so as you made that decision, how did networking support your path to open the door to these new opportunities?
I found myself in a place where I knew I had to make a move. At the age of 30 years old, I was already starting to feel the effects of hard labor. And I knew that I was a fairly smart individual and maybe had never lived really up to my full potential. I decided that I wanted to be a salesperson. I was always good with talking with people, always good at listening to their stories, like I alluded to earlier. And I found myself having the ability to take that relationship building and turn that into advising people on perhaps their next best decision, whether it was purchasing a home, insurance, whatever the case might be. So networking allowed me to find those people that would assist me in finding my client base, my customers, or they themselves were potential clients as well. And as a result of going through 4 years of a Lutheran liberal arts education, one of the definitions of that is you're going to have the ability to talk to anyone about anything. Maybe not in depth, but we can have a conversation. So that facilitated my ability to talk with a lot of people about a lot of different things and create those opportunities to sell things and to not only use my body, but my mind.
Very good. And you can talk to anybody about anything. And I've seen you do it. So that's wonderful. Your education came in handy.
Indeed.
So networking is important. Connecting with people is important. Storytelling and that capability to just tell a story that's engaging and connecting, really critical for networking. Perfect. I think I know that you networked to open the door and close the deal on the opportunity you have right now. I don't want to go there yet, though.
Okay.
Where I want to go is in the beginning of the book, Next Stop, Your Dream Job, I talk about it's important to consider what did you enjoy doing as a kid? So what did you enjoy doing as a kid?
I was a big sports guy. I was very active, a lot of energy. I was good at a lot of different sports. I had the physical capability to play baseball, football, basketball at a fairly decent level. Not until recently, I would say in the past, few years, did I realize that the way that I was raised by my grandparents were born respectively in 1917 and 1922, that I gleaned a lot of the way that I live and view the world from them. The point being is that as a result of that upbringing, I had an affinity for working with seniors because they were already seniors and I was a little boy. Mm-hmm. My mother was a single mother. She wasn't around as much as your typical nuclear family. So as a result, I learned a lot about them and I engaged with them. And I truly loved being around them because they took care of me, they loved me, and they imparted a lot of their wisdom of what they went through the Depression era upon me. Mm-hmm. And I just enjoyed spending time with them, hearing their stories, playing cards, going hunting, going fishing, all the things that they brought to my world. I embraced and I really enjoyed it. So as a result of that, it took many years, 55 years to be exact, but I now found myself in a place where I am able to utilize all of those skills that I learned and also serve the part of me that wants to serve my grandparents.
Nice.
And excuse me, it just dawned on me how much that where I'm at now is the right place to be.
That's wonderful. I remember the first time I asked you, what did you enjoy doing as a kid? And your answer was, I love to play baseball.
Yeah.
And I know you have a lot of stories from your grandfather. He was a really great baseball player, and the war took him away from being able to go pro. But you really had fun playing baseball with him, playing baseball at school with your team and stuff. And I'll never forget the first time I asked you that question, and you said, I can't become a pro ball player. I'm like, yeah, probably not. Now, fast forward, we were just talking the other day about how looking at what we enjoyed doing as a kid, and it's our spirit knows what we ought to be doing.
Yep.
But it doesn't necessarily mean literally. As you were taking me to the airport this morning, and we went past there's a lot of road construction, and I said, I bet the people that move that dirt probably enjoyed playing with dump trucks as a kid. They're down on their knees and the scoopers and all those things. And it's just, when you look at what did you enjoy, and when you think about baseball or the sports that you played, the connection was you had to be an individual performer, but you had to work in a team.
Yes.
And isn't it ironic that the job you've had the most fun at, you actually engage every day. You're an individual contributor, following up on all the things on your own. You're meeting with people and taking them on tours, but you're also a team player, engaging with your director and the nursing staff and all the people in your facility that actually help the guests feel like welcome parts of the family. Family is a very important part of your life as well. And so I find it really awesome that your spirit showed you all this. Yeah. And it's now all come together in perfect timing for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is one of those moments where you're just like, duh. And it hit me. It didn't really smack me like a 2x4 in the forehead, but it just, over the past couple of weeks, and I'm sure you noticed this, I just became this. I got back to being who I was when we met.
Yeah.
And
your personality started to shine again.
Yes. So, not to personalize this too much, but this opportunity, it's been profound. And I'm grateful on so many different levels, from professional to our relationship to the way that I view the world. It's really been amazing. And I feel very grateful to be where I am at now as a result. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So a couple of months ago, we were sitting at dinner with some of our friends. And out of the blue, you said, I've decided this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
We hadn't talked about it. Now, you had applied for a role a few years ago.
Yeah.
And the person who was hiring at that time decided you weren't a good fit. And I don't know, and this is for other people looking for jobs.
So they had their own issues.
When a hiring manager decides you're not a good fit for an opportunity, it doesn't mean that you're not a good fit for that type of role. But sometimes it's a blessing that someone, in essence, rejects you, right?
Yeah.
Because the right opportunity will present itself. Now, in that moment, you chose not to pursue that industry. You made other choices, and it was just this kind of pull, this calling almost, that out of the blue, you're like, and I asked you, I'm like, is there a job you're going to apply for? And then when you made this announcement, all of a sudden it was like this gear clicked. And then I remember a week or two later, so after our friend who works in that industry had given you some ideas, recommendations, suggestions, a couple of weeks later, I'm like, did you find an opportunity? Did you apply? And you hadn't. What held you back in that moment?
I had made the decision, and in the role that I was in at the moment, I think there was this internal struggle for me, and I felt like what I was doing in the moment was comfortable, that I could do it, that I was safe, for lack of a better way of putting it. But it wasn't really very fulfilling. So it came down to a point where I had to decide, okay, is this, do you want to just feel this feeling of contentment, safety, something in that realm? Or do you want to actually pursue something that you care about? Do you want to feel fulfilled? Do you want to have an opportunity to serve others? Which, if there's anything that I could do in my life, I think that for me to be able to give back, and this is my mind putting this all together, to give back to my grandparents, to give back to people that selflessly gave to me when I was too young to know any better. But by proxy, by helping people of their similar age and circumstance, to assist them in their search for a place to feel like they're wanted, they belong, like that allows their children to actually be kids again and not be their caretakers. So for me, giving back, like my wife, is at the core of my being. And it took me a while to uncover that again. And I found it again. And I feel really whole, complete with what I found.
Your wife appreciates that.
Indeed.
Thank you. And I know, so my mom recently passed, but when we would go to visit her, I would watch you just talk to all of the residents there as well. And you just seemed so natural and people just gravitated to you. And so really it's been fun. And what you did there was a bit of networking as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it just takes me back to, I just really enjoyed hearing the stories from my grandfather, from my grandmother. Not just, oh, that's really nice, but actually they painted such vivid pictures of what their childhood was like, what their experiences were through the Depression, through World War II, through life, that I still really enjoy hearing other people's stories. And that's really a part of me that it's a big deal for me. It's important for me to hear that, because I feel that connects me not only to my past, but also who I am as a person, and just carrying that forward.
So when you're networking, what makes it important to listen to other people?
For me, it's realizing, not realizing, but just, I guess, accepting everyone for who they are, not who I want them to be or who I think they are, but actually to listen and understand, so that they feel heard, they feel validated, they feel like, wow, somebody actually cares about what I have to say and what I've been through. And I think that's what we all want, right? That's something that you can pretend to be or even be an amazing person, but unless someone actually hears and validates what you've done and cares about what you have to say or what you've been through, it's like the tree falling in the forest without anybody hearing it doesn't make a sound. I think to be able to share and impart what you've been through, and if somebody else is there to go, wow, that's cool, or whatever the case, that's part of being a human, right? That's in my opinion.
Indeed. And I was listening to a podcast a couple weeks ago where after 2020 and the whole pandemic and everything, there are more people depressed now than ever before, and more elderly. And part of that is because people have forgotten how to connect with each other. People have, and then our phones cause us to, people are sitting here and doing their thing, right? Playing games and whatever, instead of having conversations. When you and I grew up, a personal computer, like I remember when our school got computers, and the thought of having one at home was like, didn't even exist at that time. And then let alone everybody carrying one around in their pocket. So how far times have come. And the kind of scary thing is everybody does have a computer in their pocket now. And they've forgotten how to talk to each other. Literally, people can be sitting at the same table texting each other instead of having a conversation. Technology is wonderful. And as some people would say, it's wonderful when it works. It's helped us move forward in so many ways. And it's also gotten in the way of having true connections and really coming together and supporting each other like you're talking about. I think that personal connection with people and sharing stories and listening to other people's stories and asking questions and engaging is not only good for helping you get a job or close a deal or whatever it is from that professional front.
Right. Yep.
It's also critical for us as human beings to have that personal connection as well for our mental wellness.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that, I was just talking about this with a friend this evening about how the COVID years basically created this time loop, or not a time loop, but it's almost like a blank space, a distortion. Thank you. Yes. Where when people go to recall events, it's almost as if that 2.5 years was compressed because nothing happened, because there was no interaction. There was no human interplay or connection. Yes, I think that, sorry, off on a little bit of a tangent, but basically, I would definitely agree with what we had to say. You got to have that. You got to have that connection. Otherwise, time doesn't get marked in the same way that it does when you are.
And that takes us back to your grandparents were born at the beginning of the 1900s, and I'm guessing electricity was coming into their lives and cars were coming into their lives, and what a different world we live now. And all the stories that they could tell about all those inventions that happened that changed their lives and gave you, because of their storytelling capability, gave you a different perspective as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Wonderful.
Just in my own lifetime, our lifetime, looking back from the 60s, 70s, 80s to today, all the technological advancements, all the different sociological things that have happened, gender, you name it. There's so many different things in the past 100 years. Literally, it's amazing. And if you don't keep track by talking to other people to have some kind of a context or reference for it, you could live in your own vacuum and just say, yeah, that's just what it is, without having any kind of benchmark or relationship to the past. Yes, I think it's pretty amazing what we've all experienced in the past.
Indeed. And that leads to continuing to follow the breadcrumbs, right? Because your past has led you to where you are today. And so as we wrap up our conversation, what would be 3 nuggets that you would want to leave people with?
Keep moving forward. Number one, sometimes I felt like I had things figured out. Not the case. So keep asking questions, keep moving forward, keep finding different ways to experience life, work, whatever the case might be. It's never too late. I've had some periods of time where I actually felt like, oh man, it's over. I'm 50. I'm too old. I'm never going to be able to make a change. Bullshit. Just go do it. If you're still breathing, you're above ground, make it happen. Third nugget, I guess as trite or commonplace as it may sound, is give yourself some grace. Allow yourself to not focus on the negative or all the things that you did wrong, because we all do things wrong. We're human.
Mhm.
But allow yourself to learn if you're able, and at least don't allow it to take over your life so that you can move forward and head towards something positive.
Good ideas, good nuggets to live by. So just a little recap of our conversation, because I want to make sure that people connect the dots and tie it up in a little bow for everybody. So when you're looking for that ideal job or that job that fills you up as fulfilling, it's really great to think back to what were some of those things that you really enjoyed doing as a kid, because your spirit knew when you were a kid, and think outside the box. So like in Chris's case, he loved to play baseball, and here he is doing a team sport that requires individual contribution as the director of sales for this assisted living. Brought it full circle. And then also continue to network with your friends, with your family, listen to people, be open to telling stories, and allow yourself, you didn't mention this, but I'm going to throw it out there, allow yourself to be a little vulnerable. Because when you open yourself up fully, other people will do the same, and you can create a deeper connection and a richer conversation to learn more and uncover more, to find more similarities and commonality. And then when you feel that click, trust it. Oftentimes people will feel something that is like, oh, I made this decision, and then they avoid following that for whatever reasons, right? But really live into that, because it truly allows you to live into your best life.
Yeah. It might feel a little scary, but trust it. Exactly.
Yeah. And then just keep moving forward one step at a time.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you were to have a conversation with your younger self, or have a conversation with our grandson, what words of wisdom would you share?
Yeah, I would say your gut. Trust yourself. More often than not, when you try to overthink something, it's not a good thing. Your brain has lots of ideas because that's what it's designed to do, is keep you safe. Your subconscious especially. But if you're able to balance that with what your heart is trying to tell you, you'll find yourself going in the right direction.
Very good. Wonderful advice. Chris, thank you very much for sharing your time with me today. And listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation and you enjoyed the nuggets of wisdom that we've shared with you this evening, please like this show, comment, share it with other people, subscribe so that you can get the weekly edition. And until next time, live into your best life and enjoy the adventure.
Thank you for listening to Paulie Skaja, your show host for Live Into Your Best Life. Check out the show notes and visit her at paulieskaya.com to learn more and continue your journey. Until next week, enjoy the adventure.